I really didn't like this movie. I thought the
Okay.
last 30 minutes is where the film had promise, but the audio track is horrific in this film, which made it like, cause I didn't really realize until the last 30 minutes. I was like, is this supposed to be a comedy?
It's considered an absolute cult film classic, but by 78,
Yeah, for sure.
it's absolutely a cult film classic. He's the one talking it down more than anything else. He even said recently to the effect, well, I don't really respond to it because I see its student film origins. I see very little student film origins. To me, it just looks like a good science fiction movie. I know some of the effects have been done cheaply. I wouldn't know that from just necessarily watching it. I don't think, hey, look, I see cleverness going on. I see cleverness up the wazoo, but I don't think, oh, isn't this charm? It's full of charm. It exists on charm. That's all it is charm with. So I saw the TV spots a bunch of times and looked like a really groovy space movie to me. I go, wow, I can't wait to see this. And so that weekend came about and I went and saw it. Okay, so this is, to say the least, this is before Star Wars. Okay, so what did I want? Well, I will say that I do think the TV spots were misleading. Okay, the TV spots makes you think that it's like a Star Trek-y Buck Rogers kind of thing. Not all the dare doing, but it just looks like a real space movie. And they don't show you they don't give you a hint of the counterculture aspect of it, and they don't give you the gonzo anti-establishment quality of it.
Mm-hmm. Traveling through distant galaxies to seek and destroy unstable planets. The spaceship, Dark Star.
Ship's computer to all personnel. This is an emergency override. All systems must stand by. An asteroid storm is approaching the ship on collision course. Therefore, you have 35 seconds to manually activate all defensive systems.
Lock gravity system. Gravity lock. Activate gravity lock.
Already under the constant pressure of the forces of space, the crew of Dark Star is forced to do battle with nature and machines with minds of their own. Drama and suspense that will keep you hanging. Come aboard as we travel to other galaxies on a journey aboard the Dark Star.
Well, folks, we are already talking Dark Star, and I may leave all that in, Gord. That was pretty funny. So this is a film that I had just never got to. Don't even know who had recommended it or not. Don't even know when it came up or not. In our circles, you would think I probably had seen this movie, but Dark Star just didn't land for me. And then I ran across a clip with Tarantino talking about how his opinion changed on the film, and he didn't really spoil anything, but he mentioned the alien stuff, and I'm like, okay, stop. I want to pause it. Let me watch this movie. And then, of course, we chatted that you hadn't seen it either. I said, okay. That said, Gord, thanks for doing this. This is a wild one for sure, my friend. Thanks for being game for something crazy like this.
Yeah, it's weird because, with John Carpenter being who he is, and shoot, he even grew up not too far from where I grew up. I mean, Bowling Green isn't far from Louisville, which is, Louisville's where I grew up. You would think that I had looked into John Carpenter's first movie, but really never had. I guess I'd always associated him with Halloween as that being his first film. And while I have issues with Halloween, holy crap, it's a far cry in just quality filmmaking wise than this is. And I was even surprised, like, looking at what the budget for this movie was, because we've recently watched a few that have had at least we did Following last. That had a considerably smaller budget than this. And the difference in how, like, Following feels like a movie. Yes, it's low budget. Yes, it's like the trappings of low budget are certainly there. It still more or less feels like you're watching a relatively modern film. This one is like more something you would see like the like the riff tracks guys for as far as like the way it's made. I was like, oh, okay, this is bad audio, bad acting. I mean, I can kind of see where the money went because there is some, I guess, decent set design, but that seems like that's where all of the money went.
Well, let me back up because I did have to go down the rabbit hole a little bit. My brain kind of broke over this movie. Short story long is that this was actually a student film while they're at USC. Dan O'Bannon and John Carpenter are students. They're doing this student film. It's obviously a parody of sort of like sci-fi in general, especially Star Trek in 2001. So these hopeful, optimistic, good-looking people who are going on these lifelong journeys and have this luscious life and, have these great altruistic purposes and decision-making. All of these things are being mocked by these two hippie filmmakers. And it is kind of chugging along. And then I guess the guy who helped kind of fell in love with it or something. I'm not sure I totally understand when they met or how they moved it forward with the producer that they ended up working with, Jack Harris. And he basically decided, well, we have to pad it out. So they added the elevator sequence and the beach ball and hired Nick Castle, who obviously plays the Shape in the original Halloween. And that's where a bunch of that money was to clean it all up because it was obviously worse than this. There are two students that are doing this in the 1970s. So they cleaned it all up and then added that sequence. And that's actually where most of the money was spent.
Funny because that's the sequence I would get rid of. I really don't like it.
It doesn't fit at all, right?
I really don't like it. I don't think it fits tonally. Like that to me is like that's the scene where I got really confused over what even this was supposed to be because I was like, I can't tell if this is supposed to be a comedy or if it's taking itself seriously because like it's a freaking beach ball, and but the music suggests that something sinister is going on, and holy crap, it is a lengthy sequence. It is really long, and it ultimately doesn't feel like it has much of a point.
So early in the film, I was like, there were all sorts of little red flags of is this a comedy or not with the way they would talk and interact with each other. The commander that had been out with them had died on the toilet. The way that they, are communicating, the Earth communication takes 10 years. And the guys at the end of the message, the guy message doing the message. I love the message because at the end of the message, he's like, hey, basically, be sure to write, like send more messages. It's like we took like a whole week off to ceremoniously honor this dead guy. And I love the fact that they're literally, so around 15, 20 minutes in is when I text my Talk Hard co-host, Stone Cold Loki, and asked, I said, look, hey, I am not out of my brain, right? This is a complete mockery of like 2001 Trek, that type of vibe of sci-fi. These two hippies, he's like, it gets so much worse. I'm like, okay, I'm buckled in. I'm like, all right. Then the fact that the beach ball thing is shoehorned in is again Jack Harris's fault because they had this entire thing put together. So how do you put in 15 minutes and make something that can remotely fill time? And I don't know, there's parts of it that I like. I mean, I do think they're pulling, how do I explain it? Just like old Harold Lloyd stuff, right? Old Buster Keaton stuff. They're pulling those type of, cheap gags to make this work. As sort of a comedy element, it's fine for me, but I totally get with you that it's out of place. And I think it's because they don't know how to end it. Like back to the story.
It really stretches out.
It's 15 minutes or so. It's a long sequence.
And I'm like, if you wanted to keep it in, like, especially because, like I said, I had a really hard time figuring out what the tone of this was. It's like, I was like, I think this is a comedy, but I wasn't certain until really the last half hour, which granted, while I don't particularly like the movie, I thought the last 30 minutes is like, okay, last 30 minutes I'm okay with. There's technical issues throughout the film, but
there's our beach ball.
I think a lot of what's good about it is in that last 30 minutes. And I'm like, I kind of wish the rest of the movie had matched it. But this little beach ball sequence with the alien, I'm like, if this had just been kind of a confined little sequence where he's having a really annoying time feeding this animal and it lasts maybe a minute or two, I probably would have been okay with it because I was like, oh, okay. That way you're like, all right, yeah, this is pretty obviously a comedy and this is just a silly little beach ball, but it gets dragged out so long and he gets put in actual danger and the soundtrack seems to be kind of like, oh, this is serious and sinister. And I was like, was I wrong that this is a comedy? What is even going on?
Yeah, no. So again, like I said,
I was really the sequence really hurt the film for me.
I think all of it is a comedy. I think they elevated it with something so ridiculously absurd. I don't know why Jack Harris let them put this in because it's so ridiculous, right? So you have literally like Creature of the Black Lagoon, little flipper feet on a beach ball, and have them basically try to, like Dan O'Bannon is. He said, again, I don't usually go down the rabbit hole, but for this, I had to, Gord, I didn't know what to do, man. I was like, this movie is nuts. Well, Dan O'Bannon said, look, they took what was going to probably be one of the best student films that people had seen to one of the absolute worst feature films that people are going to see. And he kind of had a mixed reaction of pride because people did get the gag and laughed at this sequence. So he kind of has that inspiration. Said, well, if I can make them laugh at this, how about if I do it serious and I'll try to scare people with it. Hence the reason Alien, because it's the guy who does Alien. Mm-hmm. So for me, it's one of these weird things where I saw this sequence and I was actually quite impressed as a student. Like they were able to find a location and pull off the Harold Lloyd stunts and try to make this part relatively believable. But I'm with you that this part just was where it went on way too long. He gets stuck waist up in the middle of it. It's just it's so ridiculous. And I think with what you're saying is totally right. It just goes on absolutely forever. So
yeah.
We've thrown a lot of mud against the wall in this poor film.
And also like because a lot of the conversations they have, aside from there's one conversation in the film I do really like. It serves as kind of a setup to the ending, where they're talking about like the one guy is kind of confined himself to this area where he's just kind of looking out at the stars and everything, whereas the other guy is kind of reminiscing on his life back home and how he loved to surf and stuff like that. And I like the conversation in hindsight because it sets up the ending. You're like, oh, okay, yeah, it's a nice little way to kind of bookend things and everything. But they're the only two characters I could kind of get a grasp on. The other I had a hard time even keeping count. It's like, who's who in this even? Because like I didn't even realize till like the last 30 minutes, like there was more than 3 people on the ship.
There's four guys left.
Yeah, like they all look like I thought they all kind of looked very similar. I mean, granted, part of that's because like they're not shaved and stuff like that, so
right.
They're heavily bearded.
The shot I had up before where they're just kind of.
I thought that magazine was funny. I thought that seemed like a funny little thing they were carrying around. I even thought, so I watched this on Tubi, so I have no idea if this is consistent with any viewing. Like there's clearly a wall that's covered in like probably nudie pics, but it was blurred out.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, so that across the board, because I was like, this is a G-rated movie. Now, granted, G-rated back then could be anywhere from G to PG-13 by our modern standards. If you go back and watch some old G-rated movies, they're not G-rated by what we call G-rated. But those being blurred out, I was like, is that so they can keep the G rating, or is this a joke, or both? Or I mean, it's funny. It's like, okay, because you could tell whenever somebody would kind of move into that portion of the frame, like the edges were unblurred, and you're like, oh, okay, those are like centerfolds and stuff like that. And
I think this is the influence of Jack Harris trying to put this actually in a theater. And I will say, and I'm defending the film for its time because I think I now get it. So this makes sense. So I kind of get this film now. I didn't get it at first. I kind of had to, I guess 1.5 viewing is fair too, because I did go back and watch a couple pieces and I watched the ending again. And I get this concept of this Jack Harris guy, and I don't totally know anything about this guy. So I'm not going to pretend that I know who Jack Harris is or what he does, but I feel very much like he's got that Roger Corman vibe of, hey man, we can just make a buck off of this and get this in the theater for the kids. The kids are going to have a laugh. They're going to have he would say, they're going to have a gas, man. They're going to have a gas, and the nudie flicks and the male humor stuff had to be toned down to get it through ratings and get it out there for the masses. But I will say one thing I do like a lot about that feel of that first vibe of the movie is you have like these 4 loser guys with hardly any personalities. They don't know what to do with themselves. They're bored out of their minds. They don't know how to entertain themselves. And the reason I say I like that is because I watch so many other sci-fi. I've been doing a rewatch for the last, bit for some of the Star Trek original series. It's so polished and you have all these characters that feel like they have purpose and whatever. And I put myself in the shoes of these dudes who are just thrown out in space for like years. And by now they're just over it, but they're kind of stuck out there. So I kind of thought this was an interesting angle on all.
Yeah.
Of that.
Like,
yeah,
you're highlighting the thing about the movie I really like. I like the concept a lot. And I think the last 30 minutes really, because I'll be honest, before the last 30 minutes, I was on the precipice of just flat out saying, I hate this movie. I don't want to, it's like, I don't ever want anything to do with this again. I can't, it's like, John Carpenter, what were you even thinking with this piece of crap? The last 30 minutes, give it a little, give it something to where it's like, okay, so this helps to tie some things together to make it better. I still don't particularly like it overall. I don't really ever want to see it again, but I do think the last 30 minutes have some really funny stuff in there, especially in concept. It was just like, I really wish most of the movie had centered around like that kind of stuff where, because if you don't know, if you've never seen this, like they ultimately like one guy has to like talk, like try to have a philosophical conversation with an AI bomb so it won't blow them up. And I was like, that's really funny. And it kind of goes into this idea of which you see throughout the movie, which that the crew and the ship itself are kind of inept. Like the AI is kind of inept. The ship is falling apart. The men are, like you said, are really bored. They're not especially good at what they do. But so all of these ideas I really, really like. What hurts the movie is, I think, for one thing, I think the bad audio really hampers this because comedy is, like a lot of comedy, is going to be dependent on tone, dependent on timing. And when it's like, I spent a lot of the movie just straining to understand what they were even saying. So that's part of the reason I was struggling to even figure out exactly what the movie was going for until near the end. I was like, okay, so this is a comedy. That's evident at this point. But also, I didn't think the dialogue was especially good from what I could hear. I mean, I was able to hear it. It was just like, it was one of those things where you kind of processed it a little bit later. It's like you would hear it and you'd think about it. So you're like, oh, okay, that's what they said. And so I wasn't getting anything especially funny out of it. It's one of those things where I kind of wish this had been John's like 3rd or 4th movie, to where he could have made a more, not big budget, but higher budget version of this, because I think this is an idea that deserves better execution than what it got. Because it is a really good idea. Seeing these guys in space who are really bored, who probably aren't the most qualified. You almost get the sense like they were just thrown. It's like, look, their job is to basically destroy planets that, planets that aren't particularly useful, or ones that could like hurt the Earth down the road or something that could be.
Yeah, like just they have this arbitrary term about being a threat, and then they just randomly will blow that planet up. And then later, when Doolittle, who's left in charge, is like asking about some other thing, he's like, don't give me these hypothetical 70% or whatever. I need to blow something up. And I'm going to sound like the defender of this movie, because what I like about that is, again, the stark contrast with Star Trek and other sci-fi of like, oh, we come in peace, and oh, listen, we're all
like,
just
no,
working
we
out.
don't.
It's all fine. And these guys are like, no, we're going to blow all this crap up, man. I don't have any patience.
Yeah, like I like these ideas a lot. Like these are ideas I think are really good. And I'm like, dang, I wish this has been like a movie he made later, because I think it would be really fun to have with, better actors. The budget thing, it's like, I guess a bigger budget would help it, but I mostly would just want to fix the audio and maybe some of the acting, like, because comedy
they're
is
clearly
very
not
heavily.
actors. I mean, literally.
They're definitely not actors, and
yeah,
comedy needs comedic actors really to work. So that's kind of one of the other major problems with it. So it's like, this is one of those movies where it's like, I really like the concept of what they're going for, other than maybe the beach ball thing going on too long. I like a lot of the ideas. I do think that, with whatever constraints they did have by film's end, I think for the most part, the last 30 minutes are pretty strong. I thought the whole sequence where he's talking to the dead captain, to the thing with the bomb having to kind of have like a philosophical thing with it, I was like, that's actually really funny. I really like that. But gosh, that first hour of this is a major slog, I thought.
Okay, so again, I'm gonna be the apologist of I just feel like I got the gags with like regular people. If you've ever laughed at like reality TV, I feel like this is at least that bad. Like
that might be the problem for me, because I hate reality TV so much.
Yeah. So it's just, I think if you're aware of what it is, it's just a student film. So for me, I look at it now as like, okay, it's a student film that a Roger Corman like person exploited Carpenter O'Bannon doing something really good for kids and made it into a thing. And then of course the two of them go on to like massive success. So therefore Carpenter can't hide that this thing exists, if that makes sense. Like this becomes an actual thing. Because I think most people, this would just, if something that's, I'm sure there are hundreds, if not thousands of student type films that are like this, that just go the way of the wind, right? They never go anywhere. And instead, he goes on to do Assault on Precinct 13, and then he does the Halloween film. And of course, everything after that is like legendary. Of course, Dan O'Bannon goes on and he works on this alien thing, and now he can't hide the fact that he did this. And I will say again, these are kids. So the special effects and what O'Bannon was actually doing and trying to accomplish, I think in many times is really quite good for, again, what they have. Because it's none of that I think is in the $60,000, all the extra money. I think it's all the other stuff. I don't know where, I can't find the shot of the hyperspace, because clearly they're predating Star Wars with their hyperspace shot. I don't know if you like that shot or not. I thought that was actually really, really good for its time.
Yeah, that wasn't bad.
Hyperdrive sequence begun. Hit it, Pinback.
Brace for force field.
So this was the weakest
really
part for me.
Beach ball. It's a really expensive beach ball.
It was not the beach ball. It was all the other stuff that went along with it. I hated this part. So suddenly the one character is not the character, and he's somebody else who pretended to be the character, but now he wants to go home. And I was like, I don't even know what's happening.
It's a very meaningless reveal.
It's a weird.
Like, I'll be like, I remembered it this morning. Because I kind of dozed off in the last 10 minutes and woke back up, rewatched it to make sure. It's like, okay, I need to finish this. And then as I finished it, I was like, oh yeah, I was like, did I dream the part about the guy like in the black and white saying he wasn't the guy? And then I went back and looked at that. I was like, oh yeah, what even was that about? Why is that a thing?
Yeah. On the AI thing, they set that up a little earlier with it having a malfunction, and they have this sort of like open dialogue. And again, we're mocking HAL, right? We're mocking 2001. We're mocking other sci-fi of these, articulate sounding, thoughtful. No, this thing is like got an attitude problem. It talks very like with jocular vocabulary. It's like, no, I don't want to do this. I'm not doing it. I have to do this. It's like, so at the end, when it has this malfunction, it's going to blow itself up, killing everyone on the ship. They go to the frozen captain, which I actually think was also probably a weaker point as well. Even though I loved the concepts of it, I thought this was just not done well. I don't even know what we're going for here, how he's communicating. It's just not ever clear, but I get
he's even alive. I was like, oh, their captain can be spoken to. Okay. That's a thing.
Yeah. They just he has these wires on him, I guess. So technically that's how they can communicate with him. I don't know. It's actually kind of unclear.
I liked the idea behind the part. It's just like, this is the kind of thing I would have been trying to, this is what I was meaning by, I wish most of the movie had been kind of revolving around what comes in the last 30 minutes, because it's like, okay, if you're telling me it's like not that the captain's dead, that he's kind of a vegetable that they can. It's like that they can like instead of the sequence where you're feeding the alien, why not have it to where it's like, hey, you need to go take care of the captain, and you have them go into this room and maybe perform some like, daily sort of maintenance to keep him running, so to speak. Maybe he's kind of whiny, wanting to have conversation. Then it's like, screw the whole beach ball sequence. Just do that. That makes it to where it's like, oh, okay, then the ending sort of ties into the early parts of the film. Because like the conversation between the guy and the captain, I was like, I liked that part. I was like, that's pretty funny. I like that, but it kind of just comes out of nowhere.
Yeah, it kind of comes out of nowhere. It went on a little too long for me with the whole, oh, I doze off right now. I can't get a connection and just that kind of stuff. And this is, again, I think this is
I like
a film.
the gag of it because it's like they're obviously it's like we're minutes away from getting blown up, and he's taking like a little too long to like help them figure things out. And I was like, yeah, okay, I kind of like this, but why would you not build towards this? Because you've been telling me the whole movie, no, he's dead. Like, well, clearly he's not dead.
Yeah, I mean, I think that they could have. These are kids writing all this, so the movie is very, very flawed in that all of those elements that Gourd. I'm not trying to contradict what Gourd is saying. I'm willing to give this film a little bit more leeway, knowing that it's a student film with a whole lot of baggage, and I can see some of the creativity and stuff that's in there. If this has not been a Riff Tracks, it's because of rights and licensing issues, because it feels ripe for, a parody that needs to be mocked more. And the philosophical stuff at the end, I think it's at least interesting to at least, again, conceptually. And it's where I do agree with you, Gourd. Like the idea of remaking this movie, expanding on concepts. I don't know what films would be cited as an inspiration for their film, but it feels like it could be. I feel like there's other people who've done stuff like, oh man, yeah, because this one concept in Dark Star made me think about this or that, and that makes sense. I feel like that could be a thing. I don't know of anything off the top of my head, but that feels right. I kind of like the stuff at the end. I didn't like the end as much as you did, and I think it's just because
I didn't love it or anything. I just thought it was more just like, okay, that's it. There's something to the ending that I was like, okay, that gave me a little something that I was happy with.
Yeah, because he has this philosophical conversation and with the bomb, and then the bomb goes, okay, I'll think about that, and it lets itself inside, and then just goes, never mind, I don't think that way, and just starts a timer to blow itself off.
What I liked about it, I'm trying to remember, what is this concept called? So basically, like to anyone who's never seen this, he's trying to convince the bomb
Rene Descartes, right? So it's the Cartesian philosophies, right?
Right.
The think therefore I am is the concept.
Right. He's trying to get this thing to realize, because it's like the bomb's notion is, my singular purpose is to explode. That's why I'm going to do it. And he's trying to basically convince him that his philosophy is flawed, because he's like, how do you even know you're real, blah blah blah, and everything. He's like, so he lets him ruminate, but it goes completely the wrong way on him. It's like, well, actually the only thing I really have is myself. So he basically starts to think he's God, that nothing else really is real. It's like, well, he gets kind of the, in the joke sense, like a creator mindset. He's like, oh, let there be light, and he blows up. I was like, okay, there's a little something to the joke that I liked. It's just, again, if they had fleshed this whole thing out better, I think it would have landed way more. Because I don't disagree with you with the whole thing that this is, you can judge this, I think, as just a student film. It's kind of, and this will sound diminutive. I don't necessarily mean it that way, but it's kind of like if your kid draws you a picture, you're not going to judge it against the Mona Lisa. You're not judging it as something you would hang in an art gallery. You're looking at the effort that the kid put in, who doesn't know anything really about art. And if it's, and if it's a decent drawing, you're like, oh, okay, so there's, this is actually pretty good. Good job. You're judging it that way. But because, we are talking about this as a film also, it's like, okay, there's the second way of judging it, is judging it as if it is in the gallery. And if we are judging it as something in the gallery, you're like, the hell is it doing here? Why is it even in the gallery?
So much to think about.
Yeah, we may have pulled it into the gallery because it may belong in places like Tubi with other sort of like VHS homemade type material, and it just may deserve that way.
Like if someone were to bring this in as like a teaching tool of sorts, it's probably, there's something probably you could get out of it. Like, hey, this is how to utilize, a relatively small budget to create, kind of this, that, and the other. Because there are some solid like set designs and whatnot. I won't say like the special effects are good. They're not. Although there is some inventiveness to even some of the techniques used to get some of the effect shots. But it's more like, I would say the set design is probably the most consistently strong quality the movie has. So you could utilize it, I guess, as a teaching tool. But yeah, it's, if we're going to judge it as a film in the art gallery, it's like, yeah, this is pretty crap.
Well, I thought that it's counterculture approach, and it's sort of like mockery and satire of sci-fi of its time, especially in the wake. And again, this is something that I keep harping on because I think that it's been lost as what a big deal 2001 was.
Oh, yeah.
And again, I have said I'm not as massive of a fan as most critics because I find it relatively boring. I think the problem is once you've seen it, you've lost your experience. Like if you see it once and you see it in a theater, because they've reshown it in the theater. I had a chance to see it back in the late 80s, early 90s in a theater experience, got to see it. I'd already seen it on VHS, but I saw it in a theater. I'm like, okay, I can get why people went bananas for that experience of it. But now if I watch it, because I watched it last year and I think the year before to try to come up with a review angle, and I'm just bored out of my mind because I know when I'm watching it, there's nothing else that's going to happen. This sequence doesn't go anywhere. This sequence doesn't go anywhere. It's like for me. So to these hippies, and to these students that were these sci-fi nuts of their time, they're into famous monsters and sci-fi horror and all that. Clearly, that's Dan O'Bannon and John Carpenter through and through. They talk about it pretty regularly, right? That they're just making fun of the fact. Well, what if hippies went up in space, right? They're not going to act like Kirk and McCoy. They're going to just want to, look at nudie books and hang around. And this one wants to play. He's not playing bongos. What's he doing? He's playing like xylophone. Make his own xylophone nonsense.
Yeah, he's like the bottles. He's like filled some with water and stuff.
So it's just goofy, stupid stuff. The kids and learning how to do effects, So I'm willing to grant it some grace, but I'm also with you. Like, okay, it's still a film and has to be judged accordingly. So it's tricky because I think conceptually there's actually better concepts in a movie like this. And I actually enjoy this. I know this is totally in stark contrast to Gourd. I actually enjoyed this and had a better experience with its concepts and its goofiness and silliness than I did watching the Rollerball remake as part of my Rollerball experience, which will be a video that comes out here soon, because the Rollerball thing was them trying to exploit the Rollerball name and then just ditching most concepts. Like it didn't have anything interesting to say other than we're going to make a Rollerball movie with like an X Games theme and you don't care about anybody. I don't know that I cared about the characters in this, but I wasn't really rooting for them to die either. Like it just felt like, all right, whatever. I'm kind of along for the ride with these crazy hippies. And like I said, I do like your analogy though. Like, your kid's doing art, or maybe it's a high school kid. It's like, oh man, he's got some talent. That's kind of how I feel about this movie. I feel like, okay, listen, who did these effects? Okay, you got some things in there right. You did some things that are very interesting. Like, how much did this cost? Oh, it didn't cost anything. He just took some film stock home and did this with it, and that's what made this effect. And it's like, oh, how'd you do this? Oh, well, Carpenter did all that music for free because he's trying to learn how to compose music to save the money. And okay, that's interesting. That's how I feel about this. So it is a film. Is probably one of the most divisive things of, like, I think our division is pretty indicative of where most people will feel about this movie. I think you are going to come down one way or the other. Gourd, you score it and I'll score it, and that will probably be exactly what I expect as a metaphor for what I'm saying. So I assume you're scoring this rather harshly.
Yeah, well, yeah, because I am ultimately, at the end of the day, it's like I don't disagree with you on pretty much anything you just said. Like even like you bringing up the whole satirical side, and heck, I even agree with you on 2001. I think that's a very impressive film on a technical level, but I think it's very overrated. And I think 2001 is especially a rough watch if you're a Christian, because that is a very atheistic sci-fi movie, like highly atheistic, and it's like, wow, this is kind of drab. I don't take away a lot from this movie that I particularly like, other than I think it's impressive to look at, and I think the house stuff is interesting. But yeah, 2001 is not a movie I especially love. It's one of my least favorite Kubrick movies in all seriousness. But so I don't mind a movie like this kind of taking the piss out of stuff like that with, very high-minded cinema or I mean, granted, I don't know a lot about Star Trek, but if it's kind of poking fun at that, I'm totally cool with that. So there are things about this that I appreciate, and like I said, the last 30 minutes keep me from utterly hating the film, because that first hour I was like, all right, can we move this along? I was really struggling through the first hour. But the last 30 minutes I was like, okay, there's something here. I guess if we're going by kind of conventional movie making, that I was like, yeah, all right, I'm getting something out of this that it's at the very least ending on a relatively decent note, but it's not enough to save the overall experience. So if I am judging this as a piece of art hanging in the gallery, a film amongst other films, I'd rate it something like, if we're doing the 5-star scale, like a 1.5 out of 5.
That's what I expected you to say. All right, that makes
Yeah,
sense. Listen, I'm not
it's a
scoring
rough
it
one.
significantly higher than you. I'm going to come down at 2.5. It's a little bit. So again, my 2.5, 3 is the middle line, right? So if you're willing to, give it the grace it deserves for being like this, like I said, most of this money that's being spent, I'm assuming, is them trying to clean up film stock, get the audio at least to this level. I'm not even sure they had microphones. The audio is so bad in the final product that I'm wondering how much was filmed with just, I don't even know. So if you can give the movie grace, if you're into sci-fi, if you can get the gag on the sci-fi and grant it mercy for effects in its time, it probably is more like a 3.5 for you. You like it a little bit more than most people. But people that are going to be like, oh no, hold this up. My wife's like you. She would be like, I actually showed her the images of the beach ball sequences, and she kind of laughed out loud. Like, it just made her laugh. And I'm like, okay, well, that's actually an okay response, though. I don't think that they would be offended that you laughed. They just kind of
I don't think so either.
And she's like, no, I get it. And then we were joking about how they made the shot, how they did the angle. And we're talking, that got me down the rabbit hole with, I've never done videos on some of the silent film stuff. And maybe someone like you, Gore, would be the perfect person to, get some download. Because I've added some public domain stuff to the channel, because I've always wondered if, again, I have no control over YouTube and what they will do over the time. But I thought if some of the public domain stuff is put in enough places, I feel like it's more likely people will find it and it will keep living on, if that makes sense. Like, you know what I mean? Like, if it's just one place, I feel like the odds of it keep living on will be less. So I'm going to try to find some of Harold Lloyd's work and put it out there, because I think that era of Chaplin and then Buster Keaton, but Harold Lloyd is the other guy no one talks about. And actually, I would think that if we pulled up the clock, the safety first clock, people would think it's Buster Keaton. I'm not sure they would know that it's Harold Lloyd. Yeah. And I think the fact that you have them doing these type of effects and stuff is rather clever for, hey, you got to go do this and make 15 minutes. And like, what the hell are we going to do for 15 minutes? Like, that's forever in a movie. Trust me, it feels like forever in this movie. It does. It is forever.
I will say, you brought up the camera shots. That is one other thing I guess I can give this movie praise for. There's good camera work in this movie. Like, that I was like, that's impressive even for a student movie. There's if you've ever watched, this will be a weird example to some people because they don't have a frame of reference, but I remember when I watched, my brother did this video, he did a review series on Troll 2, and he has this sequence that he did in the third part of it where he's filming kind of an at-home parody. And there's actually, I was kind of impressed because I was like, dude, you actually did some really solid camera work. There's some good angles. There's some good, you capture, the acting is actually pretty solid. You could tell there's an actual vision behind it. And in a weird way, it kind of opened my eyes to seeing that can be kind of a natural quality, even in an amateur filmmaker, where it's because you can see some movies where the camera work is complete garbage, even with big budget movies. But someone like Carpenter here, it's like, yes, there are as many issues as this has. You're like, okay, he does have at least a vision for what this is supposed to look like and how it's supposed to be shot in certain angles he wants to get. It's really good. It's like that element is really good, and you can still see like signatures of that in later movies. Like there are parts of this movie where I'm like, okay, I can tell he used some things he learned here for even things like The Thing, because
Oh yeah.
there's a sequence where this guy's like kind of doing an audio log, and they're like, I'm willing to bet this helped to influence like when McCready's doing that in The Thing. Like I was like, okay, yeah, I can see where that's still present, the way it looks, the way it's sort of
Well, just the
the way it's
claustrophobia, I
framed.
think
It's
he
like, yeah.
captures pretty well, right? They don't have a lot of room, and this like I don't know if I mentioned it, right? So there's a gag about all their toilet paper got destroyed, right? So that it's just, but the idea is they're just stuck out here for I guess it's been 20 years, I think they say, right? It's been 20 years, but it only feels like 3 or something. Like it's some sort of weird math. I don't totally get the light speed thing, but because of hyperspace and everything else, they're not aging as fast as real time. So that's just the amount of time they've been in this quote tin can. And I couldn't agree more. I think this is a film that if I'd seen, or like if we were judging film student stuff, we'd be like, man, I don't know who's worked on this. I want to know who worked on this. And I say that when I hold it up against the lens of uber low budget stuff in the 80s, when you start looking at, I mentioned Roger Corman stuff, but even lower budget horror and stuff that went to VHS and knockoff sequels. And these guys were really trying to learn and trying some different angles and creative stuff. And I think that part is where this film's, I guess, where its heart lies, where its sweetness. I think what there is to like about it, I think, is for me. So I've done my best to defend it. I'm kind of with Gourd though. I'm not a big fan of rewatching this again. It pained me to have to kind of spruce up my viewing a little bit here to make sure I was attuned. But then I used it as a chance to kind of go down the rabbit hole. And once I went down the rabbit hole a little bit, I was like, oh, that makes sense. Oh, this makes sense. It's like so. And that quote by Dan O'Bannon, I think, really made it for me when I saw him make the comment about, we were going to try to deliver what was going to be one of the best student films they had seen, and now it turned into like one of the worst theatrical things. It's like, oh, that totally makes sense. Like, if you cut the beach ball thing out, what it would feel like, it'd probably feel more like a better spoof of like a 2001, because it would be more.
Yeah, it would be a little more cohesive. Yeah.
But
or just shorten the sequence, or just like, I think you can keep the beach ball thing to an extent. It's just it really should have been like tapered down to like a 3, 4, 5 minute sequence at most.
They exactly went to the 15 minutes that they needed to do to get this guy his cash in the promotion. And again, you do what you do to get the career moving, and that's what they did. And it'll have to speak for itself. So, among the craziest of films I have seen, and I don't know how long, and definitely among the craziest Gordon and I have sat through, I've sat through some crazier stuff that Corman's done. I keep throwing his name around, but he did a lot of things. And many of those films are hindered by really incompetent people. Like they didn't have a John Carpenter. So cinematography and poor budgets and decisions are ruining what are really good concepts. Like I've talked about Android, I think it's also on Tubi, a relatively interesting concept that feels like it's in the Blade Runner universe. Like you feel like, oh, this is kind of like a Blade Runner type thing. Okay. But it's ruined because this guy is made some decisions that are kind of pervy, and the stuff is just badly executed. You're like, oh, kind of ruined for me. But there's some concepts. Oh, it's really good. So yeah, interesting. I'm glad I watched it though. I'm good. I'm glad I watched it, and I mix on Assault on his next film. I want to say I've seen it, but I also don't think I have. I don't know. It's one of those things.
I have seen it. I like it. I actually kind of like that movie.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad we're talking about Carpenter. So let's talk about Carpenter's resume for a minute, because I'm a huge Carpenter fan. I am. And I'll just throw this out for folks. For me, again, and people have to understand that I'm growing up. I obviously was too young to have been allowed to see The Thing in theaters. So just kind of the age bracket here. I'm 11 years old when Thing comes out. Wasn't allowed to see The Thing. but VHS is happening simultaneous to all this stuff. So by the time you get to Starman, I can see Starman in theaters, but I already knew who John Carpenter was. I'd already seen Halloween. So his resume, let's run this down for folks, make sure they understand. This is Halloween's in 78, The Fog, Escape from New York, The Thing, Christine, Starman, Big Trouble Little China. That's we'll include Prince of Darkness in 87, and you get to They Live in 88. So in 10 years, that guy made 9 films. I would think I've never watched Prince of Darkness again, so that'd be the one that I couldn't really fairly evaluate without any, it wouldn't be fair to evaluate that one. I love rewatching all of those movies, even if I have issues with them. I think, I watch The Thing every year, if not multiple times a year. The Escape from New York, I love to death. Big Trouble in Little China, I love to death. So, how do you feel about that decade, if you would?
Oh gosh, okay, so my experience with Carpenter movies, funny enough, so I watched The Thing probably the first time when I was maybe 11-ish also, but that was well out of its theatrical run. So that would have been in the 90s, I guess, when I saw it. Initially, I was just in the wrong mindset, and I just was like, I'm kind of bored. I don't want to watch this. I guess it was kind of like, the Antarctic setting was like, I was like, this seems kind of dull, and I didn't really pay much attention to it. So I would say I kind of maybe saw it / half saw it and didn't like it. But then at 13, I actually sat down and freaking watched the thing, and I was like, oh, this is amazing. This is one of the best horror movies I've ever seen in my life. And, it's at this point, I probably would call it my favorite horror movie of all time. And, absolutely in the discussion for greatest, ever made. Funny enough, I didn't see Escape from New York for a while. I saw Escape from LA before I saw Escape from New York. So that was a fun,
I'm sorry.
Well, the funny thing is, so I think the way in which you can, I actually, so there's I think Razorfist did a review of Escape from LA, and he basically, the way he frames it, I think is at the very least the right way to watch it. I don't know if it actually was Carpenter's intent, but he's basically like, if you watch Escape from LA as a parody of Escape from New York, it's really fun. And I was like, okay. Because I actually did not, I'd never have hated Escape from LA. I was like, this is a very silly movie, but it's really fun. And then I watched Escape from New York and Escape from LA back to back, and I was like, I kind of see his point that you can watch it that way. And it's like, yeah, this is actually pretty fun. I do really like Escape from New York. I love Big Trouble in Little China. Like that movie has gotten better with each watch. That's up there high. Halloween, I've always been kind of iffy on. I think the movie's somewhat overrated. I think the way it looks and I think the music for it is excellent. I think the actual storytelling and characters are very weak. But I get why it became as popular as it was, because it's kind of the perfect movie for Halloween. It's literally something you can dress up as, and it captures the vibe of Halloween really, really well. Funny enough, even though there's plenty of Carpenter movies I still need to watch, I have seen Christine. I always thought Christine was kind of neat. Such an odd concept, but I think the execution is really good. And I love vampires. I actually thought vampires was super fun.
All right. Well, so this is actually this is an old list, which is kind of fun to find these lists. The internet's great because it doesn't go away. 2016. So this is almost right at 10 years. It seems like it's a little bit after later in the year, but approximately 10 years ago, Blood Disgusting does this crazy list, and this is the 24 movies ranked. Memoirs of Invisible Man is last. And Carpenter has explained, look, the studio wanted goofiness. I was trying to take this serious. Chevy Chase did not want to do a comedy. He wanted to be dramatic. So everything about this movie was an absolute disaster and a mess. And he was caught in the middle and talked about what an awful experience he had doing the film. Fine.
Yeah, I know he said Chevy Chase the hardest actor he's ever had to work with.
Chevy Chase has some bad. Look, even young Chevy Chase on SNL is a bit of a problem to work with. So it is who it is. He's just Ghost of Mars. I couldn't make it very far in this movie. I tried to watch this last year before. I didn't last very long. It was really dumb to me. Just couldn't stand
Yeah, I've never
it.
bothered
Bad
with it.
acting. It's bad. Here's some Escape from LA. They're really raking it way too low for me, but they have.
Yeah, I think the movie's really fun.
Yeah.
It's goofy as hell, but it's really funny. I think it's pretty enjoyable. I get why if you're somebody who loves Escape from New York, I get why the shift from that movie to this movie, you'd be like, what just happened? Why is this like this? Like, if you were actually hoping for a legit sequel to Escape from New York, I can get why you'd hate this movie. But
that's right.
I guess watching this before Escape from New York, I was just like, oh, okay.
Yeah. Dark Star they have down low. What'd they say about Dark Star? They say directional review, not overtly a bad film, very much a student film, and it shows. Kooky sci-fi comedy succeeds in many areas. The bomb that won't deploy without receiving an order to. So
no, it's not the MVP of the movie.
It's supposed to be a short film that's stretched out to a features mess. So anyway, yeah. So look at the weird. See, this is the goofy marketing that they did. Like they put the dead commander in the.
It looks like a freaking horror movie.
Yeah, it does.
You're to watch something disturbing.
Yes, this is the problem with stuff like that. It just messes you up. So, The Ward I've never seen. Are you familiar with The Ward? I've never watched it. Okay.
I didn't even know that was a
gas
Carpenter
stations.
movie.
The body bag segment. So it's an HBO thing. Don't know about that. Village of the Damned. I don't know about that really.
I think I've seen that, but it was a long time ago. I don't remember it well.
Yeah, this is one of those boxes that's going to be a turnoff for me. I don't really care for those type of movies. I've always wanted to see this, and I don't know why I haven't. Kurt Russell as Elvis is amusing to me. So great concept.
Mm-hmm.
This is the other body bag segment. In the Mouth of Madness. When is this?
I've heard that's actually pretty good, or at least really
94.
interesting. Yeah, I've heard this is actually a pretty interesting movie. I've not seen it. I mean, and I know like Sam Neill like kind of gravitates towards a lot of those like really esoteric type horror movies, and that's because it's a Lovecraft story. I imagine that's what it's like. So it's one I would like to see.
Well, I'm going to put it on my Halloween list for sure then, because that's one I have not seen. Another TV movie, Someone's Watching Me. I'm not familiar with that.
I've heard of it.
Prince of Darkness, I've only watched once. Did you ever watch this?
It. Never seen
it. There's one unforgettable moment. I've never watched it again. It's got a voodoo element. I didn't care for. Cigarette Burns, Masters of Horror segment. There's Escape from New York at number.
Wow, that's low. Outside of the top 10.
11?
Wow.
That's crazy for me. I can't get there with that. All right, so okay, I cannot get into vampires. Vampires for me.
It's so fun.
So I love the first part of vampires. The problem with the vampire movie for me was the fact that you have the Baldwin character keeping the girl around. He kind of lingers on for so long with this weird quasi thing. It's like they just didn't know what to do. And it just felt like it was very
I mean, it has been a while since I've seen it, but I remember watching it and having a good time with it. So you might be right about that particular issue, but
again, there's some great moments. Having a really there's some great concepts. Yeah, but overall, I just didn't care for that part. Masters of Horror segment. I don't know what that is. Christine.
Never heard of it.
So Christine, I love Christine, and it's again, it comes out of that special time, right? So VH is happening. I'm getting old enough now. I go to the theater. When that car puts itself back together again, they sort of like film it and then reverse film. I thought it's only more spectacular now. They were able to pull that off in the 80s.
Yeah.
I think
Christine's really cool. Christine, I mean, I don't know if it belongs above Escape from New York, but it's a really cool movie. I like it.
No, trust me, I am not trying to agree with their order in any way, shape, or form. At least it's in the top 10. I just think all that.
What I like about a movie like Christine is it harkens back to a time where you have you would have horror concepts that were obviously very, absurd, but the movie takes them seriously and it does the work to try to justify them as much as they can. And this is an example of something where you're like, it's a killer car and you're like, okay, that seems silly. And then you watch it like, oh, it's actually really good. Holy crap. This is good stuff.
Agree. And Keith Gordon's great. I love Keith Gordon in that. I thought he was good. Fog is solid. Haven't watched it in a minute. It's on my to-do list to get to watch that again. Just the concept of the Fog.
I don't think I've seen the Fog. I don't think I've seen it.
Yeah, it's I I think it's next, right? It's like right after Halloween, kind of little bit of special effects money and kind of moving things forward for him. Starman's kind of an underrated film for me for him because it's so out of the bounds with where he was and his trajectory, but it has so much heart and sweetness with it. I just always thought it was really good. Jeff Bridges does a
It's
great
another
job
one I
with
need
it.
to watch.
Yeah, it's very solid for its time. It's like it's Midland better. It's like it's not really like a big impactful film. That's the reason we're going to get to those other films, but I really enjoy watching Starman. Here's the one I need to watch. I see every time I see like a poster or something, I think I've never seen this. Then I don't know. I'm going to watch it and be like, I saw this.
I really like Assault on Precinct 13. Like, it's first time I watched it, I was like, it's a very simple film, but I think it does its concept in a way that's really, really cool because it's all more or less at that location. And there's some really interesting character work. It's like one of the criminals is kind of sort of becomes a hero in a way, and not necessarily he's not necessarily a good guy, but this is a situation where it's like, hey, we're in the same situation, enemy and my enemy type stuff. And it was like, this is cool stuff. I liked it. It's been a little while since I watched it, but I remember really enjoying it.
I just like the idea of it, and exploitation films of that era. It's just been fun watching. I'll watch that one. They Live, I think, is a masterpiece, just totally underrated for what it was.
I mean, it's
doing.
a very silly movie, but it's really fun.
But what he's poking fun at and what he was doing ahead of his time, and then the fight scene is just great. The fact that Roddy Piper and Keith David it's just how much absurd again. If you can't get that from Carpenter, I don't know. Yeah, that's good.
It's so much
Big Trouble in
fun.
China just gets better every time I watch it. I love it.
Oh yeah, it's great. Like it was funny because I remember the first time I watched it, and there was a quality to it that I was noticing, but not quite able to put my finger on what it was. And then Goodwin was like, "Well, it's the fact that he's really not the hero of the movie; he's the main character." But
he thinks he's the hero.
His friend's the hero. He just thinks he's the hero.
Everybody up. Yeah.
And I was like, "Yep, that's it." It's so much fun, and it's
when you
really
click and
funny.
see it, it's phenomenal. Love it. Halloween is their number 2, which is fine.
I would have this lower. I would have this a lot lower. I'd probably still have it
because you don't. Do you like any of the Boogeyman movies? Because this is the thing. If you're just waiting for substance of a Boogeyman movie.
Slasher movies for me are a source of major untapped potential. Like Halloween. I don't hate Halloween because at the very least Halloween is taking the concept seriously. So I like that. My issue with Halloween is there's a lot of like logical inconsistency. And I don't think the character work is especially good. Like I think the character work is remarkably weak. So even though it's like, yes, this is serious and this guy's dangerous and that's all scary and spooky and all that good stuff, none of the deaths really seem to matter, which is a bother for me. But there's elements to it which I think are really bothersome. Like, they point out the fact that they're like, how has he learned to drive? This is silly. And I'm like, that's a really good question. But you never really justify how that is because he's not just able to drive, he's really good. And I'm like, that's kind of stupid. And there's other little inconsistencies here and there that kind of bug me. So it's like, I appreciate that it is taking the concept seriously because part of the reason I don't particularly love like the Friday the 13th movies, or part of the reason I really just hated In a Violent Nature, especially that movie, because I really wanted that to be good, is I hate when the victims are all really stupid and where they're made to be as stupid as possible so they can get killed. And I'm like, the slasher genre would be so much more interesting if the slashers were killing people who were intelligent and that you kind of cared about, because that is almost never the case in a slasher movie, and it bugs me to no end because I was like, that would, I think horror is such a untapped genre. Like there's so many different concepts that could be great and so few of them do it well. And slasher movies, to me, it's like you could make a great slasher movie if you just had smart characters that you cared about. And so few of them do that. Everybody is an idiot in these things just so they can be meat.
I mean,
and
it's the godfather of that. So I can't dispute some of your arguments. It's just the fact that it's the boogeyman that comes for the babysitter and then all of their friends, and the friends are just unwitting nitwits who are worried about drinking and having sex. So therefore,
well, this one at the very least, Halloween, like in Halloween, at the very least, the characters are mostly caught off guard. So at the very
Right.
least, Halloween's not doing the trope where everybody is a complete moron. Like,
Right.
it's funny because you could actually argue the dumbest person in the movie is Jamie Lee Curtis. She just happens to come out on top because she's the one who actually does the things like run up the stairs and hide in the closet. But at the same time, I'm like, okay, her behavior's not like, it's not like something you can't understand.
Yeah, it's not
So
abnormal
it's even
behavior.
that aspect's forgivable. It's just when you watch, like, I harp on Into Violet Nature a lot because I remember seeing the trailers for that and thinking, what a novel idea, a movie where you're actually, you're following the slasher killer. He's got this really cool look. But the kills are nonsense. And almost every single death in that movie, the characters are especially stupid. Like, in a way to where it's like, the tone of the movie seems to be that you're supposed to take this seriously until you start to see the way that the victims behave, and you're like, this is absurdly stupid how these
I've
are
never watched
actually
that.
occurring. And it's so frustrating because I really wanted that to be great because I really liked what I saw in the trailers. I was really anticipating that one, and I think they botched it horrifically. Plus, it's unbelievably boring. Like, when I was like, oh, this is from the perspective of the killer, that's cool. I didn't realize you were gonna have to like watch him walk for like, at like a third of the movie at minimum. Like, about 20-30 minutes of that movie is just him walking. I was like, oh gosh, this is
What do you think
painful.
about the Scream approach of mocking these elements of the genre?
Scream, I think, is like, I think Scream, for what it was trying to do, at least the first one, I really like that. I don't love the sequels to Scream. I think that's like, it's sequelitis, and I think Scream is one of the worst offenders of sequelitis because it's just kind of doing the same movie over and over and over again. Like, I know a lot of people are like, oh, Scream 7's out. I'm like, I don't freaking care. I checked out after Scream 2. I don't care about sequels. One was enough. But I really like the first one. I think the first one's pretty cool.
Right.
But yeah, it's like most slasher movies, it's like, it's a genre that I would love to be in on because I like the idea of a slasher movie a lot, but holy crap, almost none of them do it well.
Well, I mean, he himself admitted that he didn't want to do a sequel. It was a one and done story. It's like the boogeyman shows up, does his thing. So they were going to make a sequel with or without him. So he just kind of navigated through making his own sequel. And now he just kind of like even laughs at the sequels to his own IP. Like, so so Carpenter's well aware of the absurdity of this as well. So I like that. To me, it's the godfather of that stuff. This is what exploded everything. It's uber low budget for its time. And yeah, there are some issues with, Mike Myers and how he can even survive, I think is kind of, funny and silly.
Well, how he can survive, like how he even knows where to go back, like the reasons he's doing what he's doing are not very fleshed out. It's like, I'm like, Halloween does some things really, really well. So it's like, I don't think it's a great movie, but I can at least understand why it's iconic, and I'm even kind of okay with it because of what it does do well.
Yep. They're at least smart enough to put the Thing on top. So
the Thing is just unmatched as far as Carpenter movies go, and it's Mount Rushmore for horror movies. It's so good. It's like that, like Alien, the Fly. It's in that upper echelon of just all-time spectacular horror movies.
Yeah, it's funny because some people like just don't get it. Like you said, your first viewing was like, I'm kind of bored, I don't get it, whatever. And that is where some people just leave it. They don't really examine the human commentary and what he's trying to get at, and isolation, the fact that this creature has evolved and assimilated so many different other beings. It's just phenomenal, man.
Gosh,
and then
it's
all
so
the
good the way
location filming and what their people went through, and just
the behavior of the characters is just spot on. Of course, the creature effects are freaking legendary at this point, and rightfully so. But the essence of the paranoia it captures, and there's so much about that movie that is just top tier.
Well, then it gives me
about as close to perfect as horror movies tend to get.
Well, it gives me a chance to plug and put a link in the description for the new crowdfunded The Thing expanded documentary. 5 hours of them talking about The Thing. You got all the living folks together, and I was able to get David Weiner on to talk about some other stuff, and his company, the companies with us doing that. So yeah, we didn't get.
I was like, I need money buy that. I saw the trailer for that on X, and I was like, I want that so much.
Yeah, it is. It's phenomenal. So, but folks, look, make sure you're checking out everything Gourd's working on and doing over there. I can't thank enough for him to tolerate even some of the bad ones with the good ones. This is definitely one of those that divided us. And hopefully you guys can decide from our conversation if it's something you want to sit through or not and enjoy. So, but Gourd, my friend, thanks for another great one. It's always fun to talk to you, man.
Thank you for having me. Looking forward to doing this again. And everyone out there, have a good one.
All right, take care, folks. Be blessed. Talk hard. I am Pops.
Thank you for